Hey, this is Enaa in with the Fight Back, and today I'm going to talk about Mao's theory of new democracy, and later I'm going to compare and contrast it to Trotsky's theory of permanent revolution. To begin with, Mao is operating under conditions in China in the 1930s where the country is semi-feudal, semi-colonial. Most of the oppression suffered is largely by the peasantry, which is suffering from a combined effect of both capitalist and pre-capitalist elements, largely the feudal class. And there is the fact that China does not have national independence but is suffering from imperialist powers, largely Japan, in the 1930s. And the new democratic revolution under Mao is the idea that there's going to be a block of four classes. The proletariat as the leading class. And this is, even though China's Communist Party is largely made up of peasants, proletariat ideology is in charge. This is not to say that there is not a worker element in the Chinese Communist Party, but to say that it's largely a element that it is largely the peasantry who's making up the foot soldiers of the revolution. And then there's the petty bourgeoisie and the national bourgeoisie. The national bourgeoisie are those who have contradictions with imperialism, and they want to develop the nation. They want national independence. They want modernization, development of capitalism, etc. On the other hand, we have a section of the bourgeoisie called the compradors. These who are largely tied to foreign capital, such as Japan, Britain, the United States, or whomever. And they are pretty much willing to betray the nation. And Mao is saying that these four classes, the proletariat, the peasantry, the petty bourgeois, and the national bourgeoisie, will unite to carry out a new democratic revolution. And this is where we'll have land reform, national independence, and controlled capitalist development. Again, controlled development. And in the conditions that exist in China, Mao does say that the national bourgeoisie could potentially lead a new democratic revolution in China. But he's largely dismissive of that because the national bourgeoisie is just as likely to compromise with imperialism and to fight against the bourgeoisie, fight against the proletariat, its class antagonists. And when the proletariat has to carry out land reform and confiscations of comprador property under a new democratic revolution, that violations of the rights of private property are going to anger the national bourgeoisie, even if the compradors are traitors. And in 1949, China does begin a new democratic revolution that largely lasts 1956 or several years later. And during this period, there is a controlled capitalist development, but there is also land reform. And by the end of the 50s, small and medium-scale capitalism is largely expropriated, although the commanding heights had earlier been controlled by the Chinese state. And during this, Mao was pretty much arguing that the proletariat needs hegemony, because earlier in the 20s, when there was an idea of a block of four classes, Mao is saying that, not maybe a little implicitly, that it was this block of four classes was led by the bourgeoisie, which was pretty much willing to massacre the proletariat and the Chinese Communist Party as they did in Canton and Shanghai in 1927. So Mao is arguing for proletariat hegemony. And Mao is also saying that you can build socialism in one country. And this is something that Trotsky does not believe by any means. And furthermore, that Mao develops this a little later, but during the New Democratic Revolution, you have pretty much all the anti-imperialist elements of the nation united against the invader and semi-colonial backwardness to develop a new democracy. But as the new democracy stage is superseded with socialism, those who just wanted the new democratic revolution, a modernized capitalist state, maybe some progressive features, maybe not, are going to find themselves in contradiction to those who want socialism. And this conflict will be seen not only with the Great Leap Forward, but with the development of the Cultural Revolution later. And Mao also sees that these contradictions that develop on the socialist stage are going to continue onto communism. And Trotsky, who was dealing with a much more limited historical experience, he's not quite seeing these contradictions in the same way, and I hope to go into that a little later when I compare Trotsky and Mao's theory of bureaucracy and capitalist restoration. And Mao also is saying that there is not only controlled capitalist development in China under the new democratic revolution, but it's almost seems like a revamped version of the new economic policy that Lenin developed. And it can be argued that Mao's new democracy is significantly influenced by Lenin's ideas in the Two Tactics of Social Democracy, published in 1905. And this could be considered to be based on Marx's earlier ideas on the 1848 revolution. So to say that Mao is not developing based on Marxism, I don't think really holds up. And again, the new democracy under Mao is largely done in conditions where the international imperialism is not allowing capitalism to develop in China, but just wants to exploit the country. And whenever China does try and or other backward countries for that matter, try to develop, that they're pretty much held down and they're just kept in a backward state. But Mao argues that, in a sense, capitalism shouldn't be allowed to develop in China, or can't really develop, because socialism won't allow it. The continuing strength of the socialist camp, the alliance of workers around the world, and the fact that true liberation cannot come from capitalism. At best, it can provide some development of the productive forces and such. So Mao is saying that there is proletariat hegemony, and this he does share in common with Trotsky, and he is arguing for a shortening of stages. But Mao's theory continues much more into the socialist stage. And I will continue this with a look at Trotsky's theory of permanent revolution. This is Enaa in Within the Fight Back. Until next time.